So welcome everybody back to the new and improved Collectorcast. Do you agree?
I mean, you can see where I'm at, so absolutely. It's awesome.
It's in Japan, living it up.
Sorry,
yeah, still here in the U.S.
Yeah. Those of you listening only, we've got some cool Street Fighter backgrounds. Pretty excited about, and we're gonna try some video stuff. But yeah, we're back to recording again. Hopefully on a regular schedule now. We're trying to recommit ourselves to the show. So this is episode 51. It's been several months since we've recorded, but we're happy to be back. So what have you guys been doing for the last half of a year?
Yeah, it's been a while. So no, yeah, super super glad to be back. So just like regular life stuff, kind of the things that got in the way that kind of got into our recording schedule. So I've got a third son now. So he's 6 months old. So it's been interesting. It's been a tough process with Sarah being home with all three of them. But he's awesome. He's super great. He's he's an easy kid as far as kids go. I've been going to work this whole time. I work for a medical device manufacturing company, so haven't taken a day off there. So a lot like Sean on the RF Gen Playcast, I'm grateful to be working and essential. At the same time, it's just kind of a rough time, so we're trying to make the best of it and keep things kind of going in a positive way forward. Other than that, as far as the gaming has been going, you guys know I'm a big Destiny 2 guy. It's one of the slower periods in Destiny's history, where they're probably gearing up for a big expansion in the fall. So it's been a couple of seasons of slow content. So gaming wise, I've been trying to catch up on some things that have been on the pile for a little while. We had a really fun Civ 6 night last week with some of the RF Gen guys. Yeah, it was fantastic. I think we started at like 8:30, like sometime around then, and we ended sometime the next day.
I think we played for almost 5 hours.
Yeah. No, it was big. Yeah, so that was great. I think we're going to continue. We got to I think 100, something like that. Turned 100. With a good group of guys. So we're gonna play some more of that this weekend. Recently, GTA 5 was free on the Epic Game Store. This is a game that I've started twice and enjoyed, but never finished. First time was on 360, and then when I heard it was coming out on Xbox One, I was like, well, I'll just wait and play it there. And I was upset when you couldn't transfer save progress, but whatever. So now that it's free, on the Epic Game Store, and the PC's pretty good powerhouse, I figured I'd play it there. And once again, have to start it over. So but that's been fun so far. Loved the Outer Wilds. And the kids are really into that. Both of them. It's crazy how much they're into it. I'd like to finish some of the games that we've started, like Luigi's Mansion 3, but they're just, you can't take them off whatever they want to play. They're going to play what they want to play.
Yeah.
And the PS4 is in the bedroom, so it's been hard to play Persona 5 because that's where Caden sleeps.
I thought you were going to say because you didn't want your wife to see your relationship choices.
So I after the battles are done, I'm like, oh, Sarah, look. And just to kind of show her like the stylized, because it really is like
Beautiful.
really cool, and has this really interesting art style to it, where like sometimes you get like a victory pose after a win, sometimes you get like an individual character, sometimes you get all the characters kind of running away, and like when it shows you how much experience and the items and like the yen and everything you earn, it's like it's really cool that it kind of changes up. But one of the poses is one of the female characters who's wearing like a spandex bodysuit, like leaning over, like really happy about her victory. And Sarah's like, what are you playing in here? And I was like, trust me, this is not as weird as it gets. And then she found me in the
sex dungeon.
Yeah, kind of. But I was gonna say spoiler alert, but yeah,
that's early.
Yeah, it is pretty early. So but yeah, so it's probably gonna require me to move the PS4 out of that room to continue Persona, which is the reason I haven't started a Final Fantasy 7 remake. But yeah, other than that, that's kind of the quick snapshot of kind of life recently, and a little bit of what I've been doing gaming wise.
Nice. How about you, Chris? What have you been up to?
Since the last time we did this, it's been a bit. I mean, it's been a while. Personally, geez, I don't know. I took another job, and then my other job lured me back. So
that all happened since last recording. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I was gone for a few months, and then got lured back to my job. So still working at a hospital, and as you can probably imagine, it's an interesting time right now for hospitals. So, like Bill had mentioned, I'm very fortunate. I can work from home, and I've been home doing that since mid-March, and haven't really left these few walls much at all. In the meantime, we've getting everything delivered pretty much. I live kind of out in the middle of nowhere, so it's not too bad. I don't have to interact with a lot of people. It's just, it's like everybody. It's kind of crazy right now in terms of that stuff going on. Other than that, we already did the homeschooling with the kids, so that was easy. We didn't really have to change anything there. It was pretty standard stuff. So, other than that, I've been brushing up more on my electronic skills. Been doing some recap work on some stuff. Spent an entire day recapping an NES TV.
That's a cool project.
It was a big project, and I was super happy when I put everything together and there was no smoke and everything worked properly. There was, before I started, there was some vertical deflection issues on the tube, so I knew it was just capacitors were getting up there a little bit. So a big job, a lot of caps in that thing, and but I've been doing some work like that on the side. I think if you're following on Twitter, you'll have seen some of that stuff. As far as gaming goes, to cover all of that, I'll probably just try to hit some highlights. Neo 2 is probably the biggest game I've been playing recently, although I've pretty much used up all the content that there is now. And I'm waiting around for the DLC. Between that, I also played whatever the Anime Souls. I'm trying to even remember the name.
Code Vein.
Code Vein. Yeah, I played through Code Vein. I enjoyed that. I have not tried the DLC for it. It just seems like it's some extra, totally optional, not necessarily story-related stuff. So, I don't know if I'll get back to that. But Neo 2, I've been really enjoying that. It's a great game if you're into that style. There's a lot of content that's in that game. I really enjoyed it. On the retro side, lately, not just lately, I've been trying to keep up when I can with Josh and John there. They do the Shoot the Core cast on RF Generation and do a lot of shooters. So if you guys, for some reason, have not heard of that yet, check it out. It's over on rfgeneration.com, just like our show and just like the Playcast. But Shoot the Core cast, they do a monthly shoot 'em up playthrough, and they bounce from new to old. And so usually when there's a nice older game that's a little bit more my style, I try to hop in and play that one. I'm not really, I'm not a bullet hell kind of player, and I don't have a PC, so some of these other ones that they're playing are kind of a little bit past me, but I've been trying to do that. So like, for example, as we record this, we're still at the end of May, and the game of the month has been Fantasy Zone. So been playing some Fantasy Zone on Master System. I played a little Famicom today. A little bit of the PC Engine Turbo version. So it's just kind of fun. I'm not awesome at them. It's just those kind of games are great for me because I can pick them up, I can play them just a little bit, you can put them down, and you just have some fun. And they do a good job. And Josh likes to stream, so I like to drop in on his streams as well. Outside of that, I've picked up a couple Genesis games. So I picked up a Super High Glide, which I had forever ago, and I really just wanted another copy of it. I haven't gone back to play it yet, but one of these days. And I've picked up a Fatal Labyrinth, which is a game I used to play, and I never finished, so I really want to go and do a run. But it's not short. It's not a short game to get through. And since I was already playing that one a while back, Krabby, I purchased from you a Dragon Crystal for Master System, and you shipped it to me because it didn't get released here in the U.S. Okay. But port of the Master System game, it's basically like Fatal Labyrinth. There's not much different except you have a dragon egg that hatches and follows you. I'm assuming for the end if you get there. So I've just been kind of playing both of those, comparing them. They're pretty much the same game.
That's a neat idea, though. Comparing them.
Yeah. Other than that, it's just life, kids, and trying to deal with this new situation that we're all in. So. How about you, Kelsey?
Just like you guys, I've been essential services the whole time, so I'm working. I did take a new position at work around the same time that we did our last recording, so I can't remember if I mentioned that or not.
Yeah, why don't you tell them about the job?
It's a night shift. Well, that's good enough. We'll leave it at that. So that's been going good. My son, once the COVID thing started, we pulled him out of school and been doing the homeschooling with him. So I got a few hours every morning that we're running through that kind of stuff, and it was a little rocky for the first week, but we got the hang of it now. We've been doing it for a month and a half, 2 months, and it's pretty smooth now. We have the option to go back to school, and we both talked it out, and he decided he wanted to keep doing what we're doing for the rest of this year. So we're just going to continue homeschooling this next month until he's graduated. He's still in elementary school, so it's not a huge thing, but it's been neat to spend the extra time with him doing that every day. I've been trying to catch up on old movies that I missed. Recently, I went through all the Aliens movies, which was a huge blind spot for me, and I really missed out on those. Like, there's some really good ones in there, and there's one really stinky one, but they're mostly really good.
Mostly really
Alien
good.
3 is really boring, and it's like they made a whole movie just for the last 10 seconds, basically. But all the other ones I had a great time watching. Really enjoyed them.
And it's weird because I'm a big Alien 1 and 2 fan, and they're really different. Alien 3, if I remember correctly, was directed by David Fincher.
Yep, that's right.
He was a really good director, and I think it's like one of the first things he did after directing like Madonna's music videos or like whatever he was doing before films or something. But yeah, Alien 3, I remember seeing so much of I was young when it came out, so I saw so much of the marketing for it, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see that. And like the 3 best moments in the movie are in the trailer. So it's like, and then like the end of the movie, that's like this, actual scene that like, is like a gripping, like decision that happens that affects the canon of the series. But yeah, it's but Resurrection's better than most people give it credit.
Oh, I loved it. I like it better than Aliens, which I realize is not a popular opinion, but it had my favorite line in any of the movies, and it had so many campy, goofy moments, and like Ron Perlman was just awesome every time he was in a scene. I just loved it.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
How can you be game over, man?
How far did you go? Did you stop there, or did you go on to AVP? And
I just watched Prometheus as well. I watched Predator to reprime myself before I go into AVP. And I have to find a copy of Alien, is it Covenant or Revenant? Can't remember. Requiem. Yeah. No, not the AVP one. The newest Alien movie.
Oh, yeah. The one with Danny McBride?
Yeah, it's not streaming in Canada right now, so I got to find myself a copy of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Loving it. Catching up on some other movies, mostly just old sci-fi and stuff. And then I've still been trying to smash my way through the NES library as far as I can, which I'm sure we'll get into later in the show. And I think that catches us all up for the last few months.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Quick one, yeah.
So, besides personal stuff, gaming-wise, what's going on in the world of gaming lately that is of interest to you guys? Any news catch your ears lately?
I mean, well, go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say, I was curious on Krabby's thoughts on Bungie nerfing popular reload perks in Destiny 2 Season 11.
I uninstalled the game immediately when I heard that. I'm not going to deal with that.
The minute after we were done. or just when you heard about the nerfing of the reload perks.
That's it, yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely my joke news item. I wanted to take a minute to see if you guys have looked at IGN's Summer of Gaming 2020.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on that.
Nope.
So this is what I've hoped before the COVID stuff happened. But what I've kind of hoped that like the this time of year, like the E3 time of year would become. So with E3 and many other things being canceled, a lot of people are going to these online broadcasts, and people have done these in the past too, with like Devolver having like one of the more popular kind of campy and funny ones. Ubisoft always putting on an amazing show, and a lot of other people really doing some good stuff. The Nintendo Treehouse Lives are always amazing. So I was curious what we would get this year with a lot of things being canceled, and this IGN Summer of Gaming is like exactly what I want the E3 replacement to be. You have like this huge schedule of like, okay, you know who's going to be given a presser. It's okay, unannounced game, classic revival, a PC show. So you can kind of like look at this whole thing and just kind of pick your poison and choose. Okay, I'm going to be there for that. It kind of reminds me of when the Games Done Quick schedule comes out. And you
Yeah.
get to look at it and you're like, ooh, I want to watch, Metroid Zero Mission. And I want to see, the any percent, Ocarina or whatever. So I was just curious if you guys had looked at those schedules and if anything jumps out at you.
I did. Nothing jumped out at me immediately, but there's a lot of them that they either don't have it nailed down yet or they can't say anything yet. So there's like these blank spots from like, ooh, what's in there? Because really the big thing I'm waiting this year is where WB is going to say what cool new Batman thing they're working on. So I'm hoping they partnered with IGN and it pops up in one of those. And that's really all I wanted out of E3 this year.
I don't know if you followed Jason Schreier on Twitter. He was
Yeah.
a former Kotaku reporter who's now with Bloomberg, I believe.
Yeah,
in
just
like
this
some
last
of the
week.
Yeah, real recently in some of the mass exodus, like with like the whole. If you haven't heard about it, you can look up like the Deadspin, pretty much getting gutted, and it's a whole big thing. But like a lot of editorial staff is leaving, a lot of different properties. But Schreier left, and one of his tweets this past week or two was like, "Gamers have exactly zero chill," and he showed like a screenshot of this dude sending him like 37 tweets over like 2 days. Like, hey Jason, like when's the new Batman coming out? Jason, do you have any word from WB on the new Batman game? Hey Jason, but it was like every single thing like Jason was like Jason could be talking to someone about like, oh hey, like the stock of Microsoft, it's like looking pretty good. It's like up 2 points. I might grab a few. And this dude's like, hey Jason, any word from WB or Rocksteady on the new Batman game? So
You weren't supposed to call
yeah.
me out mid-podcast, Bill. Come on.
Yeah, that was at Kelsey. So, but yeah, so I thought this was really, really cool. I'm really looking forward to, and a lot of these, it's kind of like a mixed bag, especially if when it's, like unannounced revival. Like you could tune in and get on the Twitch chat, and then you're sitting there and you're like, all right, where are we? And it's like, oh, hey, get ready for blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay. And like, I could imagine seeing like the views go from like, 8 million down to like 40.
Yeah.
So
Look, everybody is waiting for the next Blinks the Time Sweeper, okay? Just relax.
We have hard drives now. You have no idea what this is going to do for video games. I remember they like the hype behind that game when they announced it, and I was like, yeah, I don't think so, guys. I don't think this is going to be it. But yeah, so that's I was happy to see that, and basically it's like June like 5th through like the 15th ish, but then there's like a handful of other dates, like late in June, and then they even say like even in like July. So it seems like it's going to kind of be like condensed into a small, like pocket of like a whole bunch of news, and then with some kind of stragglers later in the summer. And I know Microsoft is supposed to show a lot more.
They're doing like a show every month. They've said with different focus on each show.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
Is any of this stuff tied into the Jeff Keighley stuff that's going on?
No, totally separate. They announced their summer thing before Keighley announced his. So I'm sure there's going to be some crossover with companies, dipping in both, but they should both have their own exclusive stuff they want to show off too.
Okay. I can't keep track of this stuff.
Yeah, that's my biggest issue right now is I liked E3 because I knew I could tune in for this press conference. An all hour long of it is not going to be stuff I want, but there's going to be those cool moments that are. I don't know when to tune in for those moments now. I kind of catch them after the fact when someone informs me or go back and look for them.
It's like every time there's a Nintendo broadcast, it's like, oh, well, it's 10 a.m. when I'm working. No, I'm not going to be able to watch that.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know how, like, because some of them, it's like, oh, there was a surprise one, like, here it is. And it's like, well, yeah, like, I'm at work. I can't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice in the past, like, knowing, like, the week before, okay, it's going to be, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, UB, EA, PC gaming show. There was like 7 or 8, right? Yeah. So it is spread out like a whole lot more. So I think you'll see a difference in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just doing a quick search here. IGN's, Virtual Expo, whatever they want to call it, they're branding it as the Summer of Gaming, and Jeff Keighley's is Summer Game Fest.
Summer Game Fest. That's it. Yeah.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
definitely 100% not the same thing.
The thing I like most about this though is like it feels like every 3 or 4 days there is some cool news coming out. It's not all just within that week now. So there's like a new game announcement every week. With the new consoles coming out this year, Microsoft's got something cool to say, and then Sony's got hopefully something cool to say soon because they really haven't said much yet. Then even Nintendo drop surprise Paper Mario game out of nowhere. Like there's cool things coming out that all would have been condensed into 1 or 2 days now that I can see over weeks and months.
Does this seem strange to anybody else though that we still have not seen any pictures of what the PlayStation 5 looks like?
So crazy that it hasn't even leaked either. It's really weird.
It's okay, either it's going to be really cool or really ugly.
I hope it's ugly. I hope it's just the worst.
I think they still have no idea what it looks like.
Could be the case too.
They're like, it keeps getting hotter. We got to make it bigger. No,
it's just in a fish tank. They just ship you the whole fish tank. Add water.
They've been testing in submerged in liquid nitrogen, and heat was never an issue. Now they got to put it in plastic. It's
just a big
crap. It keeps melting.
It's a big tub and a bunch of bottles of mineral oil, and they just ship it all to you.
Oh, so good. But yeah, that's another good point is I don't see any of the leaks on this IGN schedule. So I would assume 1 to 3 days before each of these scheduled events, we'll see them leaked online first. So just keep an eye out for that.
That's true.
Yeah, there was a great line. I forget who it was. The guy from Bethesda. It wasn't Howard. It was one of the other higher ups. But there was a leak at Walmart 3 or 4 days earlier.
Oh yeah.
And he said something like you may have heard about this from our partners at Walmart.
Yeah.
Was it 76? I think.
Yeah, that was last year on the E3 stage. Wow. I think. Yeah, it was really funny.
That was so great. Yeah, and I think that's the show where they had Andrew WK come out. Yeah, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that was fun. But yeah, I mean, leaks are a thing, and we won't get too much into the. There was that recent, Last of Us 2 leak that they thought was it a disgruntled employee? No, it was someone unrelated. So, my stance on leaks is they're never good. I know that people with the Last of Us thing were like, oh, this is what happens when you mistreat your employees, but I think it's one thing to, of course you want to have, good working conditions, but I feel like if there's people who are, pouring their life and their heart into making this thing, I don't think they want it spoiled or leaked, no matter what. So I just,
and that turned out to be a hack too, not an employee. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's rough. I've been able to avoid stuff. I'll grab it, probably when the price is right, but, I don't really actually see too much in the form of leaks. I hear that things were leaked, but I'm pretty careful about, I don't go looking for stuff, so I normally don't get things spoiled for me, pretty much ever.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I hear about a lot of them. I haven't had any Last of Us 2 spoiled for me, even though there was that massive leak.
Yeah, I heard about the leak, but that game's not up my alley anyway, so I just really didn't pay much attention.
Yeah, it's not hard to avoid the things if you try to.
No, I see some pictures and memes, but I don't know what the heck they're talking about anyway, so it doesn't bother me. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, the only thing I did before Skywalker came out, I had a billion things muted on Twitter, because that was the only one I was really worried about, is just scrolling through Twitter and just seeing something pop up like that. So I forget, someone posted a list of hey, if you want to avoid spoilers, I made this Excel's list of 900 Star Wars terms. So I had a lot of things muted for before the movie came out.
I just make sure to go see that opening day, and then I don't have to worry about it for more than the couple days of pre-screening kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's not talk about the last Star Wars movie.
Well, that's episode 52.
Yeah, it's DLC. You gotta pay for that one.
Yeah.
What's exciting you lately, Chris?
Oh, I like retro stuff. So retro news is usually pretty interesting to me. I've just been, thinking about the Saturn lately, and I've seen a lot of new Saturn development. So it's kind of the way it goes, right? Once people start learning the tools and they can really start digging into the code, you start seeing all these cool things happen, hacks and changes. We've seen that for past consoles up to the 16-bit era, but I don't think we're just kind of now getting to that threshold where that 32-bit era is becoming a place for that. So, some of these things have been going on for a little while, maybe a few years, but so I've just been digging through the wormholes of some of these Sega Saturn things. So one thing that's pretty cool that if you want to go out and take a look for it is Saturn widescreen hacks. So what they've done is, they've made widescreen hack versions of a lot of big name games. So if you're playing on a widescreen, you get a bigger view of the game itself. So they're not really changing much, in terms of gameplay or anything. It's just a better experience on a widescreen. And
did the world need more virtual highlight though? Sounds like a bad thing in some cases.
I don't know if there's a widescreen hack for that one, but your Shining games and your other popular stuff is out there. And I would imagine a lot of people emulate. So if you're emulating on a widescreen, that probably makes pretty good sense as well. So that's been pretty cool. I've been looking into that. I haven't tried any of them out because I don't game on my Saturn on my TV, on my flat screen TV. But I think that's pretty neat. That's kind of been in conjunction with some other patches and things that have been coming out. And another one of those is that just recently got released, and that's the Symphony of the Night Saturn 4 megabyte RAM hack. So somebody's hacked a version of the Saturn version of Symphony of the Night so it can use the 4 megabyte RAM cart. And so that way...
What benefits does that give you?
So you're going to get less issues with loading. So you're going to cut down on your load times and some of the other effects and things that were in there. So they can just load them all onto RAM. Just makes it a little more seamless.
Nice.
And speeds things up a little bit. So, again, most people these days, if you're probably playing that, you probably have like a Pro Action Replay or something that has a 4 megabyte RAM expansion on it. So why not? Or if you're playing it with an emulator, definitely why not take an improvement that you can get through that. And then probably the big thing has been these optical device emulators, or optical drive emulators, ODEs. And these have been a thing for a while. They've been kind of growing for different systems. I know the one for PlayStation came out like a year or two ago. I've heard it's really kind of wacky, the PSIO, and how you have to set it up. You have to do some soldering, and it's not exactly probably what I would call clean in terms of use. But there's a couple that are out now and will be out soon for the Saturn. So I've been thinking about maybe jumping on board for one of these because I've got two Saturns. I've got my original launch Saturn that I bought eons ago. And then I have a second one, a Model 2 that I picked up later on because it was cheap from a sale or something somewhere. And so the Model 2 I have is already has a mod chip in it. And so that's how I play imports and things of that nature. So I think I'll probably get one of these for that one. So there's a couple of them. I don't know if you guys have seen anything about these.
No.
There were a couple old ones called Rhea and Phoebe, and those were not easy to get. The person that built them, I guess, didn't make them very often, so it was really hard to get one, and they were expensive. So it's been, here, there sort of thing. But a couple of them have been getting some traction now. So there's one called Mode that got announced, and it's actually an optical disc emulator for both Saturn and Dreamcast. So you can use it between either one. I guess if you really wanted to, you could switch it between the two back and forth. Or honestly, you could probably just buy one for each. It's not cheap since it works for both. It's over $200. But again, never have to worry about that stuff again if you just want to load that stuff on an SD card. And I think the thing with Mode is that not only will it do things like SD, it'll also do USB flash, and it will do an actual hard drive. So it has interfaces for all of that stuff right on the device. So if you wanted to just load up an SSD or something, or a spinning hard drive, it's still going to be way faster than the CD-ROM would have been ahead of time. So you could just load up, a small hard drive full of all of your images, and then, you never have to worry about media or anything else on those things again. So that's Mode. It's probably the higher end one of those. It's been announced. It's not quite out yet, but it was kind of a big deal. That's coming out from Terra Onion, which I don't know if you guys have heard of Terra Onion. So Terra Onion, they make a lot of these sort of devices. There's one they came out with, I think, last year called the SSD3, which is a device that plugs on the back of a TurboGrafx 16 or PC Engine that allows you, it's flash. It's basically like a flash cart, but allows you to play any card games and CD games just with this one device. And it also has RGB out and all that stuff. There is the Mega SD, which is a cartridge that you can use with your Genesis that is not only just a standard flash cartridge, but also similar to the other one. You can play Sega CD games right off the flash cart, so you don't even actually have to have a Sega CD at all. You can just play everything right through this cartridge.
I've seen that, but I didn't realize I could do that. Interesting.
Yeah, so that way if you want to play every game along with Sega CD games on your Nomad, you could do it. I mean, it'll work with anything. So
Portable night trap at last.
there you go, right? It's the best of all worlds. So they also make one for the AES MVS. So they make in Neo SD. So if you want a flash cart solution for Neo Geo, which I've kind of been thinking along those lines.
Yeah, you're getting into the market for Neo Geo. Is that what you're looking at right now?
Yeah, so I've been selling off a bunch of Transformers I've had since childhood, and I don't really care. They've just been put away somewhere, for a long time. So I've been sticking them up on eBay, and I'm really surprised, man. Transformers sell quick on eBay.
Toys are huge again, yeah.
Yeah, I've really been shocked, because, I'll put these things up, and, some of them, they're not even up, an hour, and they're sold.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've been selling a lot of those, and that's got me to the level where I can afford an AES, a Neo Geo AES with a controller. So I'm going to look for a deal on that, and then I'll start selling some more stuff to hopefully save up for one of these flash carts, because the flash carts cost more than the Neo Geo does in some cases. So if you get the best one from Terra Onion, it can play not only all the Neo Geo games, kart games, it also can play the Neo CD games on an AES.
Right.
So that's kind of the cool way to go. Not cheap, but it's called your all-in-one, and I can't afford to buy a bunch of Neo Geo carts, so one and done is fine for me.
Who can?
Krabby has a few. So
I'm in the double digits for AES carts now. Whoa. Got 11.
Yeah. Wow. So I don't plan to go down that route. I'll probably pick up a couple cheap Japanese carts or something just to have them for the fun of this is a giganto cart.
Right.
They're great.
I think my buddy Bijan might have the largest collection of anyone that I've seen around here, but yeah, it's rare. I've been to a lot of just guys' houses who have collections. You pop in, you're like, oh, this is really cool, and he's the only guy I can think of where there's just a stack of enormous games.
Those things are really expensive, so that's not a market that I'm in unless I don't know, hit the lottery or do something to get lucky. But I want to say that's a collector's market that makes everything else look like kids play. It's not even funny, the prices that you can get into for that. But yeah, I'd like to get into Neo Geo. That's kind of the last of that era of hardware that I don't have, and so that'll be the last one off the wish list. And then that'll be fun to kind of goof off with that one. But getting back to just kind of quickly wrapping up the ODE stuff for Saturn, there's also the Fenrir, which is just a real pretty affordable plug and play that plays off SD. So if you're looking for one, you might look for that. And also something called the Satiator that should be coming out soon is just plugs right into the MPEG card slot on your Saturn. So that way you won't even need to mod it or take the drive out. So that's kind of the cool stuff I've seen coming.
Cool. The only thing that's caught my radar lately, other than the new console stuff, is just really recently in the last few days, a YouTuber named John Riggs and Frank Cifaldi of Digital Clips and the is it National Video Game Museum or History Foundation? I can't remember which one he is. Anyway, he's a preservationist. They've both been teasing that they've got this really awesome find where they got all these old floppy carts full of data from apparently a company who has put out NES games, and they've been able to piece together a completed NES game off of 30 to 40 different floppies, and they're gonna dump it on Monday for everybody. And they won't say what it is, but he has hinted that it's put out by a company who's published other games during the lifetime, legitimate publisher, and that it's not something that people really talk about. It was never advertised or brought up, so there's not a lot to speculate on about what it's going to be. So he said there was one really old instance he was able to find it online of somebody mentioning this game, but it's not something that people typically talk about. So 2 days from now it should be out in the open what it is. I'm pretty interested to see a new NES game built in that era coming out.
Did you see all the yeah Beavis comments? I thought that was hilarious. I'm like, whoever started that.
So 2 more days, and I can find out what that is. But I have not emulated a game in over a decade. might be one that I'm interested in trying again, just because the stuff that gets made now that runs on an NES doesn't feel the same. You can tell there's different design philosophies behind them. So playing something again from that era, I'm much more interested in trying. So I might have to, not that I have a rule against emulation, but I might just jump into that arena that I haven't touched in so long.
Get yourself a flash card so you can play all the unreleased games.
I have one. Someone made me one when I had my store and like branded it like Game Quest and everything. So I've got one at home, so I can stick it into my console. I just had to figure out how to do that because I have never done that.
I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I can text you if I can't. I'm sure it'll be not too bad though.
Wow, that's exciting.
It is exciting. You know what else is exciting? The Collectorcast is back.
Oh yes, indeed.
Yeah. So we don't have a regular topic this time around. We thought we'd just talk about what we want the show to be going forward and give you some ideas of what you can expect, and maybe even ask for some ideas from you guys too. Because the three of us are still big gamers. We're kind of small-time collectors now. We're not out doing the hunt every week. We're not hitting all the garage sales, the flea markets. We're not buying lots to flip. We still collect, but it's on a significantly smaller scale. I don't feel like we're experts in the modern arena now too, because things are way different from when we were out doing that. A lot of it's on like Facebook and Instagram and stuff now, rather than hitting the road like we used to be.
It's a real different world, and even what you see is going for high dollars or like sealed collecting now. Those are where people are getting into, which is good. I'm going to hold on to a couple sealed games for a while.
Yeah,
that market keeps going up. I'm okay with that.
Happy I got that sealed silent service. That's my retirement plan right there.
But I mean, that I don't think that necessarily means we don't have the games anymore or anything. It's just Kelsey, you and we've got to the point where it's like you pretty much have most things that you want.
Yeah, the pool of things I'm looking for is so small and specialized and rare and expensive that it's not something I'm gonna, if I go to flea markets and garage sales the rest of my life, I'm likely to find.
Right, yeah, I'm not going to trip over an AES at Aunt May's flea market or something down the street.
Yeah.
And mine's similar but different in a way, whereas like the pool of stuff I'm looking for is so much smaller, but also very inexpensive usually, because I'm looking for like similar to you guys, I had a massive amount of complete in box NES games, and it was just this thing that kind of started happening, and like I was collecting NES games. I was bored. I wanted to get some stuff from when I was a kid, and it started. I just started collecting any game I didn't have. And then I got a handful of box games, and I was like, these are beautiful. And then I just started, getting everything in boxes, and it just started real small. And then, I just kind of, like everyone at the time, like you bought a lot, you kept a few things, you sold the rest of it, you used that money to keep it going. So I just kept rolling into more stuff, and like the box, segment on the bookshelf kept growing. And it kind of got to a point where I was just collecting games to collect games and not so much to play them. And people would say to me, like, I would get a new game and they're like, oh, that's a really good one. You should actually play that. So I would try to grab a game and actually play the ones that are supposed to be good ones. And I really, really, really enjoyed the games when I had them. And there just came a time where I was like, all right, it's time. And then, you go down to the stuff. So I have my complete Konami Silverbox NES collection. I still will pop a game in to the NES when I go over to my parents' house. My Play Choice 10 is there, and I have one of the cart adapters, so sometimes I'll just grab a cart and throw it and play it in the Play Choice, and I love doing that. I have my complete 32X set, and I have a great big collection of big box PC games that I will get any big box PC game I see when I'm out because they're like $1 or $2. But yeah, it's to the point where if I'm going to go out and actively get stuff, it's either going to be on these Facebook marketplace groups where everybody just, gauges it off eBay, takes off a couple bucks, and it's I don't want to just buy $70 single items off of Facebook or eBay, So I know it's kind of like an older, I don't know, but it feels like an older collector mentality to me, but I'm okay just doing things the way I do them, and I'll go out to a flea market and once every couple of months, I might find a copy of Flight Simulator, and I'm cool with that, So there's still a lot of gaming going on in our house. It's just, I appreciate the amount of gaming that's happening versus because I'm telling you, the amount of time I would spend moonlighting at work, just on Craigslist and setting up flea market routes and stuff. there's just so much more time for activities at home, like, and I'm actually like playing games more. So, but yeah, it's I'm hoping that the show focuses on, you know, things that we think are cool in gaming, whether it's acquiring old stuff, taking the things that we've kind of like learned and the tastes that we've developed over our years, and you know, applying that to kind of the newer stuff that we're playing or newer stuff that's coming out. Actually, maybe looking at like a little bit of news, even though it's not going to be really like a news show per se. It's really just kind of like some dudes that like hanging out and talking games, kind of going through what their life in gaming is kind of about right now.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And to go back to what Chris was mentioning, like I was almost at 7,000 games at one point. I have scaled back a little bit. Like I am down to like 6,500. So that's a big drop.
Yeah.
And what I did with those was it was things that I had almost a full Wii U set. And I'm looking at this set and going like, do I need a copy of Funky Barn and, you know, 5 Just Dances? So I took everything that I wanted to keep, and I took the rest in and traded it for other things that I would prefer to have. And one of my goals lately with my collection has been
Funky Barn
upgrading my loose NES games that I really, really love into complete box games. So there's been a lot of just upgrades rather than acquiring all new games, which has been really, like Bill said, like NES boxes are just beautiful, beautiful things. So I'm at around, I think like 200 to 250 in that range. But I've got a couple real big bombs in there, but I don't intend to get a full set. I just want to get the games that I enjoy the most complete in box, and the rest I'm happy with the loose carts if that's all I've got. But yeah, so the show, like we'll still talk about collecting once in a while. When we have cool pickups, we're going to talk about cool pickups. But we're going to expand to other areas of gaming that interest all three of us, which is, you know, it can be really techie with Chris sometimes. It can be really silly with the rest of us. It could be Destiny updates if that's what's on Bill's mind. So we'll bounce all over the place.
It's going to be a segment.
Oh, God.
Like if the other guys have anything to say about it, it'll be Bill's Destiny half minute.
We'll just give you however much time to record separately on your own. We'll just tack it on the end, Bill.
The show is over. And now...
I think you guys are right. I mean, just because we've done, you know, a thing in the past, it doesn't mean that has to be exactly that way. I mean, we've seen that as we've done the show over the years anyway. I mean, we used to spend forever talking about pickups that people had, and then we transitioned to some different stuff where we were doing some more interactions, and I really like the interaction part, and so I really still hope to do the questions, and we're talking about maybe, you know, having a live version where people can see us doing the show. And so I really like the interacting part. I like the games, you know, people. I like, you know, that's my hobby, and I like other people that love my hobby, and you can get away from everything else that's happening in the world and just talk about games and have fun, which I really appreciate. So all of you on Twitter, thank you for giving me an escape. A lot of times, those of you on Twitch, thank you, you know, for giving me an escape. And, you know, maybe we can do some of that stuff too here at some point in time. But I just want to have fun. Want to talk about stuff that's interesting to me and to you guys. And, it may be a little different sometimes, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So to Chris's point right there, this first show back, you know, obviously Krabby said, and if you're watching this on YouTube or any other video platform, we're trying a little video thing. Made us a little background, and we're going to tinker with it a little bit. So we're not streaming this show, but that is something that we may be doing in the future. But since this is kind of new and the format's kind of like, you know, we're trying to figure it out, any feedback you have on that, as well as questions, like Chris said, we love questions. I really do love the interaction. We try to be as active as we can on Twitter. I'm not on Facebook as much as I used to be, so Twitter's kind of the spot to grab me if that's, you know, if you have a question or some feedback. Or if you're looking at this and you say, man, they're not doing this right, I should tell them how they should be doing this. You can message me for that too.
I don't know how deep that rabbit hole you want to go. Do you ever read the comments?
So yeah, I mean, as far as the tech stuff goes, if you have a like, hey, right click on that properties, check that box. Okay, it'll sound better. That's really what I'm looking for.
Instead of, you guys are crap. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
I was
Okay.
already like prepping my 30 Jason Schreier tweets at you this time.
Yeah, it's Jason Schreier. Any Jason Schreier info, I'm down. I'm down for it.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to, just let me know if you want to see more Rubik's Cube videos or less. So
Bill's a
How do you
cuber,
combine
a
Rubik's
cuber
with
now.
Destiny.
ooh,
There's a
actually,
crossroads there somewhere.
believe it or not,
I believe it.
just recently, like so every like a reset every Tuesday, the Eververse store updates its stock with new Bright Dust stuff, and they always sell new emotes. So every Tuesday I jump in. Bright Dust is the currency that you can earn by playing the game, not by
Thank
spending
you.
real
You
money.
said a
So
bunch of
that's
words,
the
and I'm
I
like,
know.
don't know what these mean.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
I thought I would give it a little thing. So I've never spent $1 of real money in Destiny. I only do the stuff that you can earn in the game. So every week I jump in there and I'm like, oh, that's cool, that's cool. So they just added an emote this past week. I forget what it's called, but it's just like your character, like just like meticulously like solving a Rubik's cube. Like so I was like, yeah, I'll get that. So to answer your question, there has already been a crossroads of Destiny and Rubik's Cube solving, so that'll be episode 3.
Nice. To piggyback off Bill's suggestion there too about reaching out to us, if you've got we've got a bunch of ideas for shows that we want to try out too. But if you guys have ideas that you think would be interesting for us to try too, please send those to any of the three of us. We'll put up our contact info at the end of the show. But like we've talked about, even we won't do it very often, but once in a while diving into non-gaming things, like we went on a little tangent talking about aliens earlier on. I would love to do the odd episode where we dive into a movie franchise or a book or a TV show, something that's all three of us kind of hits a spot for it that we can spend some time on. We might talk about Star Wars or whatever Chris is into these days. He's reading books about like CRTs from like 70 years ago.
So don't worry, folks. I'll keep it on Star Trek. Star Trek. Yeah.
Star Trek is the channel 4 of retro podcast conversations.
I know you got your Wars guys, and you got your Trek guys. Okay.
Yep.
I've recently been getting into Trek lately. I'm starting to see what the big appeal is.
That's right.
You got your Galaxy Questers. Which,
yeah, I feel like all three of those boxes I'm checking right now.
All you need is Kirk, an alien girl, and a fist fight, and you got a show. That's all you need.
Jeez.
But yeah, no, I would love to deep dive, because when you talk to, I mean, no one's like one dimensional, right? Like when you guys were both saying before, what got me into the hobby was like the games, but then what kept me into it was all the people. And it wasn't just like the people that you met or the friendships you made, because those are awesome, but like you would go to these shows, like you would go to Too Many Games, or you'd go to, MagFest, or you'd go to, like PAX, or like any one of your favorite shows, Retro World, whatever. And it wouldn't just be like, it would just be like a party, like with all your friends. And like I remember, like every time you would go to one of these shows, you would meet a new dude, and then that was like another person. And it wasn't like you just talked to these people about games and nothing else. You kind of found that there are all these areas of overlap, and where there wasn't an area overlap, it was like, okay, I have no idea what that is. Can you tell me about it? Because you're an interesting dude, and I'd like to, get your feedback on it. So I'd kind of like the show to kind of be like a reflection of that, because there might be something that one of us is into that no one else knew that they were into also, or like, oh, you're into that, I'm into that too, or that's silly, let's see where this goes. So I just really like the people aspect of kind of like what the hobby did, bringing all the different folks together who, man, we've had so many great times, so many great get-togethers, so many great calls, so many great chats. It's like that's the best part of the whole thing. So I hope it keeps going.
Yeah, I'd love to have more people involved. I know we have had guests in the past. I hope we have guests in the future, because, like you say, we can all sit in our rooms at any time and play a game. I mean, you don't need the other people for that part, but it's the joy of the hobby that you want to share, and the things that you think are exciting, and And like Bill said, outside the hobby too.
Yeah, and we've always been really sporadic with our recording schedules. So we've been talking about having a much more consistent recording schedule where we're going to try and put out a couple shows every single month. So once in a while, that'll mean someone's not there when we're recording, and there might be 2 of us on, or there might be 3, but one of them might not be one of the regular 3. So we're going to try and keep more consistent schedule, whether that means we're all here or just 2 of us or 3 different people are here, if that makes sense. And like Bill said, we've got some goofy ideas too. We're not going to take the show super seriously. So we've got like some trivia ideas and some little games and like a debate kind of formats. And we're going to try some things. I'm sure not all of them will work, but we're going to have fun doing them, and we'll refine them if they don't, and get rid of the ones that don't. But we're very open to trying things right now.
We're going to throw some podcast spaghetti at the wall.
100%.
I think sometimes the failures are the things that are the most fun.
They might be, yeah.
Right?
And like was also mentioned, we're going to focus on trying to get some video formats up, whether that's just the podcast in a video form on YouTube or some live stream Twitch where we can interact while we're talking, which I think would be very, very cool. We've got the groundwork set for those, so hopefully it won't be too long before we get those off the ground and running. But let's get to Chris's favorite part of the show, listener questions.
This is my favorite part.
It's really fun sometimes, yeah. So we've got, actually, I was surprised that we got a few decent ones because it has been like 6 months since we've said anything to anybody about this show.
Thank you.
It's it's like you have your sometimes you call your ex-girlfriend up and she's like, why the hell are you calling me? You haven't talked to me forever, but we got enough people who are like, yay. So
and when you call her, you ask her, what's your favorite quarantine game to play? Which is a question we got from our buddy Bickman2K through Twitter. So he was saying he's been playing Animal Crossing. There's been a good game for him during the quarantine, and he's been playing some Darksider's Genesis with the playcast on RF Gen. Those are his 2 big quarantine games right now. So how about you guys? What have you been up to?
Like I mentioned before, I mean, I like the Shoot the Corecast. You know, those guys do the monthly shooter. The ones that I can play along with, I like it because I don't have to be very good. I don't have to really feel like I need to compete. And it's like kind of fun. I have 20 minutes. Let me turn. I did that earlier tonight before we were going to do the call.
Like you said too, when they pick certain games, like you have a whole bunch of different options to play. So like you're playing different versions of Phantasy Star. That's really neat. I remember doing that with 1942. Yeah. And just trying different versions, and different people only have access to different versions. So you're getting very different experiences and really cool conversations.
And that's the great thing about having a collection. Is you have these versions sitting around anyway.
And if you want, like the high scores there for those type of games, if you want to compete, you can compete.
Yeah.
And if you want to compete on an obscure version that no one's going to test you on, you can take it.
Yeah, I haven't looked yet, but I'm going to guess the only score I'm going to submit for the Famicom version is probably going to be the top score. So
Maybe.
But yeah, no, I've been having fun. I like things like that, and like I said, Neo 2. If you like that style of game, like I said, there's just so much content that game gives you, and they just recently did a free, like additional content. They're just like, here we hit 1 million copies to thank our fans. Here's like 9 new missions and all this stuff. DLC's coming, and so you can just everybody have this for free. So I really like what Team Ninja's doing with that game. So.
I know personally, like I know you love that kind of game, and I really do too. You still like it during like stressful quarantine times with everything else that's going on right now? You can still really just lose yourself in that style of game?
You could just beat the living crap out of some stuff, you know what I mean? And that is very satisfying. And you get to the point where, I mean, like in Neo 2, since there hasn't been new content, I'm getting close to the level cap, and so even like the hardest mission stuff, it's kind of a breeze. So you can just, if you feel like farming or killing some stuff, you can just really do some cool moves and things that look neat and just decimate. Or you could like, okay, I'm going to try using a different weapon and try that out and see how that goes. And again, there's just so much content there. I'll never get to all of it. So yeah, those games don't stress me out. I mean, there's stress involved, but it's the kind of like, let me add
Controlled
it. Let me try
stress,
one more
yeah.
time, right? Let me give me next time I'm gonna get it. and,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that works really well for me. It's that NES level of like, I can get it. This is just
Right.
I've heard that said about Shadows Die Twice. It's like I got this. Like I know why this happened, and if I just get better, I can do it. It's never unfair death. It's always like, okay, I got this.
yeah. And I'll always appreciate that when the gameplay is good and the controls are on point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only thing left to blame. Right? So at that point in time, it's okay for me to go, I'm old. My hands aren't as
I,
good as they used to be. I'll get it next time.
I remember just super quick. I got Darkman for the NES, and it was one of these times where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna actually play a game, right? I'm collecting so much, so I popped it in, and I like probably fall into a pit like 35 times, and I ping Krabby, and I'm like, listen, you've beaten like this game before, right? I was like, what am I doing with this jump? And he's like, nothing, man. It's just brutal.
That game is so slippery. Like,
Yeah.
that game and RoboCop 2, I think, are some of the hardest platforming on the NES because you're just sliding everywhere. Nothing
Yep.
feels like pixel perfect. Everything just feels a little bit off.
Yep. The polar opposite of that tight control we're looking for. So
Yeah. Well, what about you guys? What are your quarantine games?
So I got if we're going back to back a little while, my just since Adam mentioned Animal Crossing, my wife was a fan of New Leaf back a while ago. I had never tried it before, so uh, when she decided like, okay, I want to get it for the Switch, so we got it. She started it. I don't know if social media had ever blown up with previous Animal Crossing games,
Yeah, this
but
one
I
was
feel
crazy.
like
Not like this new one, yeah.
I was gonna say if it had, I never saw it before. So this is unlike anything I've ever seen
I
Nintendo wise
I
on
think
social
in the
media.
first week it already broke every sales record any Animal Crossing had ever done. Like, it's just bonkers.
Well,
Right, and
it's still really hard to either A, buy the game because it's
mhm.
sold out everywhere, or to get a Switch.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So especially physically, I mean, obviously you can get it on the Nintendo shop, but yeah, like to walk into a place and like walk out with a copy of Animal Crossing, like much less a Switch. So Sarah was familiar with the franchise, she was into it. So okay, let's get it, and we got a copy kind of before the world went to hell. I think it was like right after PAX. We got back from PAX before we went to on vacation before the entire world shut down. So she's super into it, and it's one of those things where like sometimes she has like rough days and there's anxiety and stuff, and I'm like, listen, like what makes you happy? Like what can we do? Let's sit down and just take a break or whatever. And I said, sit down and make a list of the things that make you happy, and let's work towards that. And one of the things on the list was just playing Animal Crossing. So she just likes to relax and play Animal Crossing. So I love that it's there for her. I have tried it several times. I either don't get it or it's not for me, and that's totally cool. But I just wanted to mention that since Adam did. I actually, there's two games that I missed really good deals on lately that I'm kicking myself for. One was Darksiders Genesis, and I have no excuse because I actually tweeted the deal to Playcast to let people know, hey, you can get it for like $16 right now on GameStop or like the Xbox store. A few places had it,
Is that the one
and
that came out on Wii U?
No, this is the newest
Oh,
one.
okay.
This is the one that came out like just this past fall, I think,
Yeah.
like November-ish. Um, and so I have no excuse for not. I just forgot. I didn't buy it, and so I missed out on that. The other is Vanquish, which Krabby, in a conversation we were having, was telling me is like, if you haven't played this, like this is one of the
I think
games
of
from.
all the Platinum games, I think
Yep.
that's the one that would get Bill into them.
Right. So, and I don't even want to tell you, like, it came up on Slick Deals, and it was like legit, like, but somewhere between $3 and $5. And I pinged you, and I was like, "This is the game you said, right?" And you were like, "Yeah, that's totally it." And like same thing as always. I was like swamped at work. I went home, had dinner, put the kids to bed, sat down and relaxed, and like by the time I remembered and looked at a computer, it like wasn't on sale anymore. So those are the two deals that I missed. So but like I think I mentioned earlier in the show, I still play Destiny 2. I used to play it like every day or every other day, even if it was only like for like 20 or 30 minutes, jump in, grab some bounties, whatever. Now I probably play it once every other week or something like that. And I'm trying to devote my time, like Adam says, to your backlog of shame. So GTA 5, I fired up a little bit recently. I played Control with the RF Gen Playcast, which is something that I bought when it was on sale in the holidays, started, and was kind of like lukewarm on. I said, let me take a break from this because I don't want to force myself if I'm not having fun. And then when they decided they were going to play it as their game, I was like, awesome, perfect excuse. I'll jump back into it. I'll refresh. And like it totally got me. Like it didn't hook me in the first few hours, but like once I kind of got some abilities and I did a bunch of my kind of like playthrough with the game I did in the thread with the playcast guys over there. So Control was awesome. If it didn't, even if it didn't grab me a little bit at first. Other than that, the kids are playing a lot of Minecraft, so I'm learning a lot about Minecraft from them. I mentioned before I played Outer Wilds. I've played through this game several times now. If you haven't played or heard of this game, it's it's not to be confused with the Outer Worlds, which is the Obsidian role-playing game, kind of like Fallout-ish, from the guys who made New Vegas. So appropriately so. But Outer Wilds is an indie game that won the BAFTA and like a whole bunch of other like indie game awards before it was even like released. And like after it won all these awards, kind of got picked up by what's the guy's name? Masioka. Is that how you say it? For like a hero from Heroes. It's the actor who played Hero from Heroes. He has
really?
Yeah, he's exactly. Yeah, Yatta.
Nissan
Yep.
Versa.
Yeah, Blue Nissan Versa. So he's like founded this gaming company, and he picked up the creative directors who made this game, and basically like took a couple of years like refining it. And the first I heard of this game, because I didn't pay attention to the indie scene, first I heard of it was when, again back to Jason Schreier, he tweeted or he was reviewing the game, and the first line in his review was, "Outer Wilds is one of the best video games I've ever played in my life." And I was like, I'm not usually one for hyperbole, and I know I read a lot of Jason's work. I trust him. I like his style a lot. So I was like, I'll give this a try. And it was similar. Like the first time I played it, because it was on Game Pass, I wasn't sure what it was. I tried to go in blind, so I didn't really know what was going on. And without spoiling anything, it's a time loop game. So you're on a 22-minute loop, and then like the
moon
universe goes supernova.
The moon crashes into the planet, right? So...
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to put a different mask on, and then so but yeah, it is a time loop game. So like every 22 minutes. But the cool thing about it, so there's no combat in the game, even though there are hazards and you can die. So the 100% of the game is about exploration and knowledge. And so knowledge is the currency in the game. So the more you learn about the world, the more information you have to go further in your explanation. And it's not just one thing. Like, because you would think, okay, once you know this, you can go here. But it branches off in so many different ways that you would never expect it to go. And it's just one of these magical games that, like, I can't think of anything else I've played like it. And even after I finished the game, I started another playthrough, and the kids, like, they can't read yet, but like we read through like some of the like what's going on there, and they'll come to me and they're like, we figured something else out, and they'll put it together, and I'm like, oh my god, you're right, like you're totally right. And it's so cool, and the music's unbelievable, and it's just one of these amazing experiences that it's such a special game. So that's a really big one that that I've played a lot kind of in these quarantine times. And I think I also mentioned earlier, we started Luigi's Mansion, got like maybe halfway through it. Would love to go back and play that, but I don't want to play it without the kids. And right now they're kind of in full on, like they either want to be doing Minecraft or Outer Wilds, or they really love Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare 2. And I don't know why. Like it got on the machine probably through Game Pass, and they love it. So but yeah, so those are some of the quarantine things and some of the recent things, but I am trying to get through some like now that Destiny is slow, because there are times where I will play Destiny and nothing else. So I am trying to take advantage of this time and check a few games off the list while it's a slow time in the Destiny world.
Nice. Before the quarantine hit, I was trying to get through some of the harder NES games that I have left on my list to beat. So I was playing stuff like Bump and Jump and Xevious that I was really struggling with. It'd take me like a full week of like, it's like 40 hours into these games that are only 10 to 20 minutes to actually beat, but it would take that long to like learn my way through them.
Yeah.
And then when quarantine hit, I was just finding that I was not in the mindset for that kind of game at the moment. So, which normally like the whole rest of my life, like I love that kind of challenge, but I just didn't want that kind of stress at the moment. So I find I'm having more fun lately playing really long seasons of sports games or role-playing games. Because with the sports games, like I was playing Tecmo NBA basketball recently, and you have to play a full like 80-something game season and then into the finals. But most of those sports games, once you've played a few matches, you can figure out how to cheese the AI, and then it's just repetitive, like very mindless, monotonous work. And also in that game, I don't know, I got to play with some other teams and see if this is the case, but I think Michael Jordan might be kind of like Bo Jackson is in Tecmo Bowl, where he's just so much faster than every other player. So you just get him the ball and no one can touch him. He's on the other side of the court. You get a dunk every single time. So I probably put like 18 hours into that game, I think, to finish, and it didn't feel like work. It was just really comforting. Like that was my routine for that week. I'd come home, I'd sit down and play an hour of basketball and then, do something with the family. And then with role-playing games, like I played through Dragon Warrior 2, Vaxanadu, and Magic Scheherazade, and I'm doing Dragon Warrior 3 right now. There's always points in those games where there's just exploring or grinding that needs to be done. And same thing, like you just get into that loop, you do it a bunch, you can save if you're feeling stressed, like you might lose some progress. So those are the kind of games I've been enjoying the most during the quarantine here. And to piggyback off that, Bickman had a second question about how much of your backlog of shame have you been able to clear since the last episode. It's basically all I've been doing since the last episode is only playing NES games. I used like last year I did every single Playcast game, I think, except for one. I haven't done any yet this year. I've just been trying to stay really focused, just play NES. I've played a couple other things with my son or with my family, like we did Super Paper Mario. We tried the Guardians of the Galaxy Telltale game and a couple other just fun little things, like I did Civilization with Bill and a couple other guys a little while with Bickman, actually, who asked this question. So those have been nice little distractions, but really they've just been like one-offs. Mostly I've just been trying to slam through that backlog, and I'm up to like 576 NES games, licensed games that I've beaten now. So I'm under 100 left to go, which is very, very exciting for me. And once I hit that 600 mark, that's another like big milestone that I'm really excited to get to, which hopefully won't take more than another month or two. So I've actually
do you have
made
like a countdown, like a 100, like on a big piece of poster board that you like slash everyone as you get closer?
I have a Google Doc that has all the games. It's got two lists. One of them is all the games to be beaten, and one of them is all that needs to be beaten. And they're all numbered. So every time I take one off, it drops the number down. So yeah, I get to watch the number like fall on one end and rise on the other end. So it's always been really nice.
Yeah.
And you have to tell everybody that you've put these all on YouTube, right? They can go watch them if you want.
Yeah, they're not exciting to watch because they're my first time beating almost all of these games. So they're clunky, they're messy. I'm not an expert at any of them. It's just kind of proof of concept. So I can say like I beat blah, 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 Bump and Jump, like a really hard game. And if someone calls me out on it, I can go, no, I can prove it. Here, it happened. Or if they just don't believe I beat, almost 600 NES games, I've got proof of that too. But yeah, you can check them out. I'll throw a link up in the show notes.
And if anyone says, oh, that's probably not your footage, you've named the people Krabby and Bill in so many of these games that it has to be you.
I haven't named anybody Krabby, actually, because when I was a kid, whenever I'd get a high score on a machine,
Ace,
my initials were always RAD, R-A-D.
Oh, RAD.
So every time I get to name a character in a game, I hate naming a character for one. It's just the worst thing in the world to me. So I just put RAD in, and then I go through the game with this dumb name. So every role-playing game has a Rad and a Bill and a Duke.
They're perfectly good names. Why not?
They suit the games, but especially when there's like a 4-character limit to a lot of them too for the names.
Yeah, in a lot of games, I'm just usually Bill. It's just like whatever. Like sometimes I'll try to think of a name that fits the game. Like I'll have to think of like a really good cyberpunk name for cyberpunk. But
I'm fretting about that already. It's like months
yeah,
away, and I'm like, just give me a name. I don't want to make
yeah,
my own.
yep.
I just asked my kids.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that because then if something terrible happens to them in the game, then I feel really bad.
I didn't name them after my kids. I just had the kids give me the name.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood.
Oh, source from them, yeah. So yeah, and the only time I used like my full name is William, so the only time I ever used that was when I was naming my Skyrim character, and I was like, this sounds like it'd be appropriate,
Yeah.
like William, kind of a like a kind of a classic, Braveheartian, type deal. So, but yeah, I'm normally just like super boring with names, like Jim Dark Magic, like that's from the Penny Arcade guys when they do their Dungeons and Dragons. Or what's it called? I'm old. I forget things. It's called Acquisitions Incorporated. That's what it's called.
I usually take whatever the default name is. I never change them unless I have to put a name.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. I like default names.
For Final Fantasy, like 100%. Like I'm having trouble thinking of a game that like like a newer game that requires a name that doesn't have like a default.
Dark Souls. All those games have.
Code Vein I think was like that too.
Yep.
Just use alias fake name.
After a while, I just give up and I'm just like, dude, gal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I'm playing like Persona or something too, they want a name. So I always like look up what the canon name is in like the manga or the anime for the main character, and then I just put that in because I don't want to make up my own name.
That's some research, man.
It is, but it makes the game more enjoyable for me. That was a tangent. We were talking about backlogs here. What have you guys been playing in your backlogs?
Sorry.
In the last 6 months?
I think I've mentioned probably most of the big stuff. Outside of that, I've been trying to read more. So I've been going through my backlog of books, which I've done a lot.
I actually did that too since last November. I own quite a few comic book trade paperbacks, and I've read through almost every single one of them again since then. I've been making a point every single day to read before bed, and while my son's doing some homeschooling while he doesn't need help reading and stuff. So I spent like 4 months of reading like nothing but Batman, and it was the greatest 4 months. Such a good time.
I don't read about Batman, but
Yeah. Can we get a mute on Chris's mic real quick?
I mean, I just don't. I told you guys that I was thinking because I don't really any comics or anything. So I thought like maybe I would subscribe to DC Universe just because I would like to read some Superman or something, Sure. But I thought I'd really probably have to have a tablet to really enjoy that, and I don't have a tablet, and so maybe I don't know. I thought maybe I'll just get a subscription to Superman comic or something, but.
Yeah, a friend of mine was showing me that, and it's actually really cool. I like how you can like go full panel for full screen, and then you can just swipe panel to panel rather than page to page. Because a lot of times you'll open up like a new page, and there'll be something cool on the right hand side that like spoils something that's going to happen, and I'm like, I wish I didn't see that yet until I read all these other panels. So that'd be the way to avoid that.
Maybe I can find like a used iPad or something somewhere. If that's because all I needed to be able to do is just do that. So.
Yeah, I'm sure like if you go thrifting or garage sailing, like those got to be popping up about now.
Probably. We'll wait till the new one comes out, and then probably everyone will offload an old one.
100%.
But yeah, I've been buying books again, and I haven't bought books in a while because I've read through some books. What about you, Bill? Any backlogging?
Cool. I think I mentioned before. I think I started the tangent. The backlogging was mainly like so a little bit of GTA, a little bit of what do you call it? Control was on the backlog. But yeah, anything kind of like further back.
I think the thing you haven't brought up was the Rubik's Cube thing that you were talking about earlier. You haven't really shared the Rubik's Cube.
So basically, I decided in quarantine that I was going to learn how to solve Rubik's Cube, and it wasn't really like a big deal. Like I just like my son saw one and he was like, "What is that?" It's Rubik's Cube. It's like a puzzle, and I'd never learned how to do it before. So I was like, "Let me learn how to do this." So it took probably like 2 weeks of just learning like each phase of like kind of the simple way to learn it, and I would kind of like master step 1, and then once I knew I could do that 100%, then I would do step 2 and step 3, and then I kind of put it all together. And I'm like every morning before work I would try it, and then every night before bed I would try it. And it just kind of got to the point. It was a couple of weeks where I was like, okay, like I could definitely like do this on my own without like checking like tutorials or anything. And it kind of stopped there, like because there's more you can learn. Like if you want to become like they call themselves speed cubers, where it's kind of like like the guys who like stack
They're
cups. We're
speedrunners.
like,
Why not?
yeah, exactly, right. So like the guys who do the cup stacking, and you
Yeah,
start
just
with your
the
hands on the mat, and then you and then hands down, and then it's okay like 5 seconds. It's the exact same thing with a cube. So you're allowed to look at. So someone has to like scramble it, and then what they'll do is they'll put it in front of the person, and then it's like covered with a cup. And then so they remove the cup, and the person gets like up to 10 seconds to look at it or something. And then they just look at it and look at it, look at it, and they go, okay, I'm ready. And then they kind of go up and they're crazy, and then down, and like so there are guys that can solve a completely scrambled cube in like 8 to 10 seconds, like every single time. And there's a lot of math and algorithms and a lot of memorization and a lot of practice with your dexterity. That's not something I'm interested in doing. I'm just totally happy being able to just like pick one up at like a stranger's house and like within a couple minutes be like, all right, that's all set. So that is something I have done in quarantine times. I don't know if I'd consider it part of a backlog, but just kind of one of those things that I never
what's a game?
knew how to do, and I figured, yeah, I guess, yeah, it's a puzzle, it's a game. So but yeah, that's that probably more than takes care of me with my what I said before plus the tangent.
Right on. You guys will have to explain this next question to me.
I can't.
That we got by the Pocky X.
Not an issue.
What is your Chipotle default order? What does that mean?
So Krabby, let me explain.
I've never eaten at a Chipotle, so I'm out.
So it's a restaurant.
Yes. So Chipotle is a very popular chain, like burrito, taco bowl, like Mexican style restaurant. It's quick serve only, so you get your food at the counter. So remember when you guys visited and I took you to that place? It was called Salsa Fresca.
Absolutely.
It's very much like that. Salsa Fresca is like a very, very small, like regional, like version of that. I personally prefer it to Chipotle. We didn't have Chipotle forever, and I had only just like heard rumors, like whispers of Chipotle, like somewhere out there in the ether. And then my wife and I were down in DC, and we're just like in the National Mall and kind of doing the tourist thing, and we're gonna go see a hockey game. And there's a Chipotle like right near the Verizon Center, which is where the Caps play. And it was the first time I was like, oh my god. And it was like the light shining like over like the horizon, like it just caught you, like there's a little twinkle in the logo. There it is, there's a Chipotle. So we go in there, and it was like this big built up thing, and once we got up there, like it's not bad, like don't get me wrong, it's not bad. It's just a burrito place, it's but yeah, everyone has their Chipotle order. So like if down here, if anyone ever says like, yo, like we're making a Chipotle run, everybody like has it like written out.
I think maybe because he didn't capitalize the Chipotle, and that is like a flavor of like a condiment. I thought he was like there's like 5 or 6 like condiments you wanted me to order them, and like what's your favorite to the least is kind of how I read that question. So I've never heard of or been to a Chipotle before. I don't even know if they're in Canada. If they are, they're definitely nowhere near where I live.
So like I said, I prefer my regional alternative, which is salsa fresca, but I will tell you from memory what I used to get at Chipotle, and I think this is going to be pretty close. I got a bowl, and it was with rice and pinto beans, if I remember. I went with barbacoa. I know a lot of guys like the carnitas, or a lot of people like like the beef or the chicken. The barbacoa for me was where it was at. And if they didn't put enough, the problem with the barbacoa is they would use tongs to get it. So like it's not like a spoon. It's not like a priest. Okay, you get like a whole spoonful. They just grabbed it with tongs. So sometimes you would get like a very generous portion of this like slowly cooked barbecue meat, and sometimes you would just get like a little bit. And now you got to decide: are you that guy that's like, can you put a little more on there? Yeah. Oh, perfect. Thank you. So a little bit of sour cream, a little bit of lettuce. I gave up cheese a while ago, except for pizza. So no cheese for me. And that's it. Just your basic Chipotle bowl.
That sounds
little
good.
guac.
That's mine. I'll take Bill's order. I'd eat that.
I don't
What do you
eat.
got, Chris?
I don't eat Mexican food. So Asian food, I'm all over it. I don't eat Mexican food. So sorry.
Oh, missing out. He also asks a question that I can answer. He's asking when you're gonna pre-order your Xbox Series X console.
When can I start?
The rumors I think are November, but I don't think anything's been said officially yet.
Yeah,
Are they even taking pre-orders right now? Now
the price isn't set. The price isn't
right.
set.
They don't have a price or a date,
Right.
but I'm sure GameStop would still take your $50 to put one aside.
I will not order
So-
through GameStop, but
No.
well, as soon as Amazon puts it up.
Yeah,
Are you getting one
remember-
like at launch? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. Regardless of
It's all-
cost,
it's-
like within a window, I'm sure.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, there's it has to be
Yeah.
Like,
think
if
of it's the $1,000 Xbox Series
Well,
X. No,
there's rumors there has been for a while that it might be up to $600. If it was at 600, are you still a buyer, or does it have to be 500 or less for you?
I think 500 is my spot. I think if we get
Yeah.
going over that, I'm gonna be. I'll have to at least think that through. Yeah.
Sure.
I remember pre-ordering my Xbox One, and I was like kind of on the fence about it. And I was at the Microsoft store. We have one in our mall.
Did
and
they
we
sell
will
you
again
when they
it
showed you the
opens.
Kinect that came with it? You were like, "I'll take
I-
two."
I honestly don't remember. I remember there was something going on where we were there like anyway to like get something, and I forget exactly what it was, but they were like, if you put $50, it was either $50 or $100 down towards the Xbox, we're like giving like a $50 gift card on like a purchase like after November 1st or whatever. So it's
Right.
like, oh well,
There's my
I
free
guess
game.
you know
yeah.
like
Or
yeah,
close
why
to
not?
it, yeah.
Yeah, close enough. So, but yeah, I don't know if I'm 100% in on pre-ordering, and it has nothing to do with like the quality of the unit, or you know, it has more to do with like a lot like my gaming very much kind of goes like in phases, like in waves, and it has forever. Like I'll be like super console and nothing else. And then like I'll kind of like get on a PC, you know, tear where like I'm playing nothing but PC. And right now I just happen to be playing like almost everything on PC. And it doesn't have everything to do with the fact that I'm playing on an ultra wide monitor, but that certainly helps because I can play GTA 5 and it looks really, really good on the laptop or on the Xbox, or I could play it on, you know, this ultra wide screen where I just, you know, everything else kind of seems like you're like looking through like a window. So I have read a few stories where Microsoft and is in talks with Samsung and LG and a lot of these you know, monitor developers about like supporting ultra wide resolutions. We don't know any details yet. And again, that's not like the whole reason why I would or wouldn't. Most of it comes down to I don't regret getting the Xbox One at $500, but I am still upset at the fact that it was like $100 less like 3 or 4 months later. So mainly for that, and for that reason, I think I'm probably just gonna hold off unless something really grabs me.
Well, there's also the rumor that they might put out two boxes, have like the high end Series X and then the low end one. So would the low end one interest you, or you'd wait until the high end one drops lower price?
The reason why the low end one could interest me is because we're kind of feeling the pressure of only having one Xbox in the house right now, where like the kids like want to play stuff, you know, like they want to play Minecraft and say, oh, like let's like Daddy, like you play Minecraft with us, like Cameron's gonna play in the basement, like Grandpa's gonna be on the computer, or like Cameron wants to play Outer Wilds on the Xbox, and then you know Callahan wants to play on another TV, and like we've kind of gotten around it with like some remote play stuff and some of the things where you can like there's like Xbox Game Pass games that are on both. But there's been more than a few times where we're like, man, if we had another Xbox, you know, in the basement, like it would just alleviate some of that pressure. And I haven't pulled the trigger on a 1S because like, you know, besides the upside of only costing like $100 or $150 or whatever, like, you know, so if the lower one could kind of like, you know, be the replacement for the X and the X could go in another room, that could be a possibility.
Gotcha.
I'm also super curious, even though I'm into Destiny and that's kind of my thing. I'm super curious to see how Halo looks with the evolving world style Halo.
I bet you we'll see a blowout of that sometime in June. Get a lot of Halo info.
I think they've already announced that.
June, July. Yep. Yeah. So, but yeah. So but yeah. So not to belabor it too much, but when are you gonna pre-order? It's a matter of time. I'm either gonna pre-order it, when I hear some more of that info and when the stores open back up, like September, October, or if like I'm really feeling the pressure of the money, and if it's not really looking like it's gonna happen, I will pre-order it right before they hand me my Xbox when I buy it.
So
To me, they're just singing all the right notes, and I can
Oh,
play everything that I'm already playing on it, and it's going to be better, and I don't see any downsides, so I'm good.
mhm.
for me, Xbox has been my least favorite console every single generation they've existed. I've never been a big Xbox guy. Like Chris said, though, they are singing a lot of really, really good notes now, really appealing, but they're missing the one most appealing note to me is where's these cool games that I want to play on it?
Yeah.
There's really nothing that appeals to my taste that I know of that's coming out for it. The one, sorry, the one game they showed during the last showcase they did with the third party one was a game called Chorus, which was like a sci-fi kind of space shooter. That looked a little appealing, but there was 30-second video. I didn't really get to see a lot. That's the only game that's on my radar so far. But with all the other studios they bought,
What
I'm
about that
curious
Scarlet?
to see.
What about that Scarlet game or whatever it was?
I don't think that's going to be exclusive. I think I can get that on anything I want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is my impression. I could be wrong, but yeah, there were a couple games that Scorn might be interesting. I'm not a big first-person shooter guy, so I'm not gonna rush out and buy that day one. But if I see that for like $15, a couple years down the road, it looks like it's very Alien inspired. Might be a fun weekend kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I have no plans to pick one of these up at launch. Down the road, my usual rule of thumb for a console is if it has at least 3 games I want to play on it, that's when I pick it up. So right now there's maybe one. So we'll see once those other 2, and I'm sure they'll come down the road. So I might buy a year or 2 in. But I'm probably leaning more towards a PS5 earlier than an Xbox. Eric Linder, our buddy from Germany, had a question for us about strategy guides. He's asking if we have purchased or collect strategy guides.
I have quite a few from back in the day that I bought, as a matter of course. Do I collect them? I wouldn't say necessarily. If I run across cool things, but I don't make a habit of it, or I don't have any kind of checklist or anything that I'm particularly going for.
How about you, Bill?
I remember the Final Fantasy VII strategy guide from when I was in high school and that game came out, and I remember just something about this book. Like I adored this book. Like it was something about like the layout, the art, like the fonts, the hand drawn art that was like mixed in. It wasn't just like sprites or like screenshots pulled from the game. I just remember loving everything about this guide, and I know it's like a weird, creepy like thing, but I remember like putting my face in this guide and smelling it, being like, this guide even smells good.
It wasn't like a weird thing. You're like, here's the Tifa Yuffie page. Like,
No.
I
No, it
like
was
the
so
smell
great.
of books too, so
Yeah,
it's okay.
good. Okay. So it's and I remember the weird thing. So like I came across like I had it just like put away in a closet or something, and I came across it like years later, and I opened it up and I was like, it still smells like that. So it's I wouldn't say I collect strategy guides per se, but something about that Final Fantasy VII strategy guide. Whenever I would get, at first it was a Final Fantasy game, so with Final Fantasy VIII, I was getting the guide. Final Fantasy 9 guide, 10 guide, 11, so all
got
that
that
stuff.
9
So
guide. Ugh, that's it.
so
Not a
I
good guide.
so no, it's not a good guide, but it has to be on the shelf, right?
Yeah, I
So
agree.
so the other guides that I really really like, the Kingdom Hearts 2 Deluxe guide is unbelievably cool. It's got fantastic, and the cool thing about it, I was working at Best Buy when it came out. It was like shrink. It had like paper kind of like on the front and back of it, so you knew what it was, but you couldn't see the cover because they had 3 different covers. It was Sora's like ultimate like I forget what like the limit break or like whatever his like super attack was, and there were different forms, and there was like one where you were red, one where you were yellow, and one where you were like white, and that was the ultimate form. So it was kind of luck of the draw, whichever one you got. But since I worked at Best Buy, I tore them open and I found the ultimate form, and that's the one I got. And so the cool thing, I've never, I can't think of another guide that I found that had this, but there was like the full guide, which was like a big book. And then there was a whole second book in there that was maybe like half the thickness of the guide. And it was just kind of like, all it was designed to do was like, as you went through each area, it just had like little boxes that you could like check off. Yes, I found this treasure, or like, yes, I did this thing. So it gave you a thing to mark up so that you didn't have to mark up like the legit strategy guide, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I've seen
And
those checklists in a few books, but they're always part of the main book. I've never seen them in a separate book. That's cool.
I'm telling you, it was like a whole separate book, and it's not a small thing. And I'm pretty sure it also like the last like third or quarter of it was just stickers. So if you just wanted to like put a little treasure sticker like in each box too, but yeah, like give it a search. It's actually pretty cool. But yeah, so I've got all my Final Fantasy guides right here. I do have the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Deluxe hardcover guide just because it's one of my favorite games, so I picked it up cheap. And I've got just a handful random like like $1-2 guides that I just thought were interesting looking. But yeah, on the whole, I don't collect them. It's kind of like just this is a cool thing, or I think this is has interesting art or is interesting. But I think I wanted to complete the Kingdom Hearts collection. So when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, I was like, all right, where's that strategy guide? And I'm like looking around for it, and it's like, does Prima even exist anymore?
No,
Like, does
Brady and Prima shut down like just a couple years ago.
Yeah, so like I didn't realize, so I'm like, okay, Prima Games. I'm like, like what do you mean this domain is available if I want to buy it? Like where's Brady? Brady's okay. Well, what about so they were just gone. So I remember just searching Amazon and everywhere, and it was like you could buy like like Ricky's unofficial guide for $10 if you wanted it, like or like just go to the GameFAQs page. But I remember being like pretty upset that I wasn't able to complete that Kingdom Hearts strategy guide collection.
I bet. I bet you like 10 years from now, they'll put out like a collection of like the first 3 games with guides for them all at some point.
Possibly, yeah.
I love strategy guides. I didn't have a lot of them growing up. I think the first one I probably got was Final Fantasy X2, and I used the hell out of that guide to 100% that stupid game. The game's stupid because of the story. It's actually really fun gameplay wise. It's got an awesome job system, and there's this like 100-floor dungeon that you can do post game that's just brutally hard to do. And so the guide was super helpful finding all the equipment for all the characters to make sure I had options when I was down in this dungeon. So I got hooked on them after that, and then I always picked them up. So I've actually got about, if you count like the old like tips and tricks books for like the NES, Genesis, Super Nintendo kind of era, I've probably got about 350 strategy guides in my game room.
Wow.
But if you're talking just straight strategy guides, like maps and this is how you go through a game, there's probably about 300 of those or those kind of guides. So you got a question, Chris?
No, I was just gonna ask, and I don't know if anybody else got this one. I bought that Ultimania, Final Fantasy Ultimania. Have you guys seen those from Dark Horse?
No.
Okay, you guys might want to check it out because you're talking about that they make them anymore. But they do. There's this series out, and so like there's one that's very thick, really nice book, but like Final Fantasy 1 through 6, and just has illustrations and maps and information, and they have another one that's like 6 through whatever. And so yeah, you guys might want to check those out. Look up for the Final Fantasy Ultimania. They're really nice.
As soon as we're done this call, I got to look that up. That sounds awesome.
They're great.
I do have because Dark Horse. I do have the Legend of Zelda Dark Horse book, which I believe is like it's like the Hyrule Encyclopedia,
Hyrule Historia.
The Historia, yep.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so I've looked at other Dark Horse stuff, but I was not aware that they did anything like kind of game guide wise. I thought it was all like art and lore and story and world and stuff like that.
I've got the 1 through 6 one. It's fantastic.
I was gonna say to Bill, since like Prima and Brady shut down, the only guides that I've seen like in a shop are Nintendo ones now. They'll put out like their own guide for like Splatoon 2, and there's one for Super Mario Galaxy, but they're like those smaller kind of like wire bound books. Not quite as cool on the shelf, but there's somebody still putting out official guides. Yeah, like especially role-playing guides, I love picking those up mainly for the art and the maps, and like Bill said, once in a while there's checklists in the back. I've been playing Dragon Warrior 3 recently, and I grabbed the manual out to read through because it's usually, like in the first 2 games, you need it for what your spells do and your items and stuff. But the manual for 3 is a guide. It literally step by step tells you where to go next, what level you should be when you get there, what you need to do in that town, what items they sell. It is crazy how much information is in that manual for that game, and it goes all the way to the end. It's not like some of them where it's like, here's the first 2 dungeons, now you got your foot in the well, figure out the rest. It's like walks you through the whole game, it looks like.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I think the Dragon Quest IV one is pretty similar, if I remember right.
It's a pretty big book, but I haven't thumbed through that one yet. I was surprised by that just yesterday, actually. But some of my favorite guides that I have, I got the one for Brigandine for PlayStation. Adventures of Lolo for NES. I love that guide, and it's really poorly written and laid out, but it will function to get you through all the puzzles if you want to. I think those are probably my favorite ones. And then, like Bill said, that Final Fantasy IX guide just has to be on the shelf, even though it is a terrible, terrible, terrible guide.
I've still got from the early NES era where Nintendo was selling guides mail order through, like the Fun Club and all that stuff. I've still got the, there's the one for Super Mario Brothers, how to win Super Mario.
Yeah.
Or it's not quite like that, but anyway. And then there's one they put out for Legend of Zelda, and they're these nice books, and they're really well done. And then my favorite of all time has always been the official Nintendo Player's Guide, just that black cover,
like a classified document kind of look at it.
Yeah, I love that book. So
yeah. I've tried to get all those kind, like I like those early guides that Nintendo put out with like the Super Mario 3 and the Final Fantasy and Ninja Gaiden and stuff.
Just like that magazine
borders
size
around them. Yeah.
Yep. And now that you mentioned that, I had a Link to the Past guide that was really, really good, and I think it was Nintendo put out. But yeah, I actually and I had this was a little bit later in the the lifespan of stuff, but I did have a guide for Metroid Zero Mission. Oh. I'm pretty sure it was also a Nintendo published one, and Zero Mission's my personal favorite, so I played through that game a ton, got a handful of different endings. Was never able to get the I think it's like 100% in less than like X hours or whatever. I just couldn't do it. But yeah, now that I'm thinking of it, I should go through that strategy guide shelf and get some memories.
I've got a couple old ones that are cool.
Once in a while.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always like some of the weird, like off-brand, like unofficial. Like I've got like the unofficial Final Fantasy VII guide and the unofficial Metal Gear Solid guide, and
I've probably got 8 different guides for Ocarina of Time, and 6 of them have really bad covers.
Yeah.
Same with Final Fantasy VII. There's a lot of guides out there for that one too.
I won't be able to put my hands on it right now, but I'll find it and we'll put it in show notes or something. There's a fantastic article about it's kind of about the history of strategy guides and why it was such a big deal to have an official versus unofficial guide, because the companies really did not want you putting out a guide without their permission and them getting royalties from, so you wouldn't get any help or support from them. So that's why a lot of times they came out late, and they sometimes had weird biases. But I'll put my hands on the article and we'll share it somewhere. It was a super interesting read.
Yeah, that sounds good. So to get off strategy guides, we've got another question from Chris Roberts, who asks, I'm assuming directed right at Bill. Says, do you even collect, bro?
Why is it directed at me?
I don't know. I don't feel like he'd call me or Chris bro. I feel like you're the broest of us all.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
So, we kind of went over a little bit of this earlier, and I think I actually responded to this when he asked this. I said, yeah, I do collect, but I just collect middle-aged man ailments like sore lower back, thinning hair, constantly tired for very little to no reason. But yeah, so it's and we can tell he's half having fun, half poking, but yeah, just to reiterate before, I don't consider myself an active collector, but if someone says oh, you collect games, I'd be like, oh yeah, I collect big box PC, hockey, a little bit here and there, but yeah, that's we're definitely glad to have Chris poking the bear a little bit, the bro bear.
I think we're all in the same boat. We kind of answered it early in the show that we still collect, just not in the same way any of us used to.
Yeah,
My
you're not the guy showing up, or like when everyone else shows up at the tag sale and you've been there for 2 hours, and you're like walking out with all the stuff, and they're like, "Con."
my answer to the question is just yeah, bro.
Yeah. How many copies of Dragon Warrior 3 do you bench? I'm deadlifting strategy guides over here, son.
Just you're bored. I mean, if you're not already following him on Twitter at CRW CWR2, that's terrible. CWR2. But you'll always see because these pictures like the man has more Super Mario Duck Hunt carts than like is like there's just this giant shelf of Mario Duck Hunt carts. It's crazy.
Yeah, so you know how like everyone has like that collector friend who has like that one like weird one-off game, and like there's always there's sometimes a reason or sometimes whatever, but like I have a friend who collects copies of Burger Time for the NES for no other reason than him and his dad used to play it, and every time he started collecting games, and every time he found a copy he would just get it, and he's up to like something like 342 copies of Burger Time on the NES. He sends me pictures of it every like 3 or 4 months. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, dude, it's bad. I'm buying copies on eBay now. I don't know what I'm doing. So, and I read this story just recently about this dude in like Pennsylvania who has like 197 copies of Shrek on VHS. And somebody shared it in our local Facebook New England Retro Game Collectors Facebook group, and they were like, "Where's the story about Dan Ungar and his like collection of Tommy Lasorda baseball for the Genesis?" So my friend Dan has something like 200 or 300 copies of that game for no other reason other than that he liked it a lot when he was a kid, and he just started getting every copy of it. And then once people got wind of it, they're like, "Oh, here, buddy, I found 9 copies for you to add to your collection." So it's just weird that everyone has. There's like you always know that 1 or 2 guys who like just goes off the deep end on one game.
That's weird.
It's all right. Everybody's got their thing.
Yeah. All right. So this one is actually directed at Bill by Anne Rand was racist, I think is their Twitter handle.
I mean, I'm not going to throw any stones there, but
no, I'm just gonna leave that. You guys can check him out if you want. He's asking Bill, during the height of your collecting, how many NES complete box games did you have? What'd you max out at?
It's a great question, and I'll be honest, I couldn't give you like an exact number, but I'm pretty certain that I broke 500.
Oh.
But I'll tell you, like the difference between me and Krabby, I remember talking to Krabby about this, as he got a lot of heavy hitters out of the way early, as opposed to me. I said, okay, I don't have the money to go after the heavy guys. I'm going to go after the little guys. And what ended up happening is, as the prices kept going up, it ended up, okay, I'm never going to go after those games. So there were a handful of heavy guys that I had, but nothing like insane, especially complete. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I broke 500. Like it was like 480, 490 for a while, and I think I just broke 500 before I was like, all right. I mean, it's kind of getting down to like
mortgage your house.
like yeah, like Flintstones and Jetsons and Rescue. And I think DuckTales 2 I got that for like $1.20.
You had Rescue Rangers too, because
Yep.
I got you that one.
Yep.
And I think I sent you
Wacky
Contra
Races.
Force as well.
Contra Force was one of the other ones I was
you
thinking.
beat
Yeah,
me
the
by
black.
like 30 seconds to Chris's Wacky Races. I remember that.
Yeah.
But
So that was like how we met. Like so.
Let's go say. Let's go back to the story where you say, "Well, I started wrong." No, what happened was Bill sold for a friend all the high-priced ones and didn't buy them for himself in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
what I did
Forgot about
was, and
that.
it was kind of before I started collecting, or like when I was like just getting into collecting. I had already like started collecting for a bit, and when I was in high school, I worked at a video store called Ultimate Audio and Video in Brookfield and Danbury, and it was a very, very, very nice family that ran it. So worked there for a while. Flash forward a number of years, and I see the mom, like who ran the store, just kind of like out and about, and she said like her husband had recently passed, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, and we kind of like reminisced a little bit, and they were like, so listen, we are trying to like move, we're trying to sell everything and get things out of here. Would you have any interest in like we don't know anything about the games. Like, you used to be into games. Like, could you come like see what we have and just let us know what it's worth? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I went in and I just looked at just tons and tons and tons of like, you know, NES, Super, Genesis, some CD stuff, but it was pretty much that era. And I looked at it all and I was like, listen, I was expecting like a few things here and there. I wasn't expecting like all of this. So I said, would you guys trust me to take all of it home and kind of inventory it, and I can give you like a ballpark of like, you know what it would be. But I said, to be honest, if I'm going to part it out, you know, how would you guys feel about, you know, me keeping a handful of it and then like, you know, giving you the rest of the money? It was very kind of casual, and they were like, yeah, it's totally fine. So basically, I took all this stuff home and like had pictures of it in my garage and spent like weeks like going through it and sorting it and cleaning it. And since it was rental, a lot of it had stickers. So the people who were into like boxes and manuals, you know, some of them were okay with stickers. You know, you take a little discount. But the people who were into carts, it's like, I can clean stickers off. Like, that's not a problem. They didn't do any magic marker or anything. It was all like labels and Scotch tape, so, like paper and Scotch tape. So it was no big deal. So yeah, one of the first big sales that I made, I posted all this stuff. A couple different places. Nintendo Age was a big one that I've been kind of lurking at for a while, but I was still a relatively new member there, and that's how I met a lot of the guys, you know, on the forums when I kind of first started doing this. But yeah, it was a wild ride. I didn't forget that happened, but yeah, that was definitely early on and with some of the big box stuff. But I got rid of a handful of things that I ended up getting later on.
And Bill should have just went like, I'll write you a check now. I'll
Yeah.
take it all. I'll figure it out later.
Yeah, it's and you know what happened is years later they were like, okay, we never sold any of the laser discs. They've all just been in storage,
Oh, wow.
and now we want to like clear that storage unit out. Would you do the same thing? I said, yeah, absolutely. And I wasn't really into Laserdisc at the time, but like I went there and I kind of just cataloged everything. I flipped through everything, like, because I did a little research, and like Laserdisc like mostly doesn't sell for very much. So like I flipped through, and everything that like was super common, I was like, this is like $1 to $5, like maybe. And then I came across a few where it was like, okay, here's like, you know, Godfather box set, Star Wars, you know, some of the stuff that might go for a few bucks. And I kind of looked through it all, and I went to them. I was like, listen, I'll try, but I don't think you have anything here anybody wants. And they were like, yeah, just try. And I kept trying. I kept trying. I think eventually I listed them on eBay as like, here are the 250 movies that I have. Pick 10 for $10 plus shipping. And I don't think I sold any.
Oh.
So yeah, that didn't go as well as the Nintendo and the Genesis and the you know, the other stuff went. But yeah, so yeah, a lot of NES boxes, and I have, you know, a lot of cool pictures, a lot of impressed people when they came to see the game room, a lot of good memories. And
So what are some of your favorite ones? Because like when I went, that's the only time I've seen a complete box Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah, that bigger one. Yeah.
Yeah. You got any other ones that you personally thought were like your favorite complete box ones?
I mean, I really really like RBI Baseball. And a lot of the boxes I like are not are games that I like. There's very few boxes that I really really like that are from games that I like don't really enjoy. Like, some are interesting, but I really really like RBI Baseball, and a lot of it was when I was a kid. If there was a game I really liked, you know, when it was time to go to bed, like I just, you know, I wanted to take that game with me, so I would go to bed with NES carts sometimes, and so the ones that like had art on them, I would just be in bed and just like be looking at like like the box art. And I remember doing that with Metroid, and we're doing that with RBI Baseball. So like a lot of times, it was just something that I, you know, just wanted to be near, like spend time with. So Blades of Steel is awesome. I kind of like the ones that have like kind of like hand drawn art on them. So like
Oh
the
yeah.
ones with like the black box ones are cool. They have some of the art from the games, but some of the stuff that's actually like hand drawn, like, you know, the hockey players kind of going at it and battling and stuff like that. Um, I mean, the Konami ones, it's not just the spines that look amazing when they're side by side. Like the whole layout of the
Yeah.
art with
Like
like the
Life
silver.
Force is not a game I
Ah,
particularly love, but that cover so
mm.
good.
Yeah, I really do love that game, and I'm not a shmup guy at all, so I don't know where it stands in the, you know, in the top, you know, 15 or 20, or, you know, like the games, but like I played the hell out of that game. Like me and my brother, we would get in there 2 players. We had like 3 or 4 shooters we really liked. Legendary Wings was one we played a ton.
It's a good co-op
Life,
one.
yeah, Life Force. But yeah, the just the way the art would kind of like come. There's always like one element that would like come like over top of like those silver like banners like on the side. But Mega Man, the Mega like some Mega Mans are better than others. But I remember like that, yeah, just the ones that like would always, the ones that popped out were ones that like I owned. I played a ton, and when I wasn't playing them, I was like, I'm taking you with me just because I want to be near you. So, but yeah, just a handful off the top of my head.
Nice. Well, that's all our questions for this time, which I'm still very happy to have as many as we did for as long as we've been dormant. Thank you so much, everybody who sent those in. Like I said, we're going to have a more frequent schedule, so we'll put out more requests for these kind of things, for show ideas, and for questions from you guys. Looking forward to getting back into the swing of things and kind of fine-tuning the show as we go and making it better and better than it's ever been, hopefully. Please keep sending feedback as we progress so we can improve. Anything else you guys want to add before we sign off?
You got to tell people where to find the show and how to communicate with us.
Well, that's the sign-off. You want to add anything before we get to that?
Oh, I thought we were done. No, I'm good. This has been fun, and I'm ready to do more.
Cool.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. And just looking at the time, we went longer than we thought we would tonight, or we're planning to, but shorter than we have in the past. So I think we're making some progress there.
We're in the window I was aiming for.
Yeah.
We're on the later end of the window, but we're in the window.
So being that we're really, really doing our best to aim for a couple of shows, we are going to try to keep it, with under 4 to 5 hours, per show. So I think we're right in the wheelhouse for that. So but yeah, thanks very much for everyone that sent questions in. Feedback is welcome, constructive, hopefully. And any ideas you have, any things you'd like to see, hit us up, and we'll keep trying to make it better.
Yeah. Speaking of hitting us up, our home base is always rfgeneration.com. If you want to check out our forums, or the collection tracking app that we have there is really awesome. You can check us out on Facebook at Collectorcast, Twitter at Collectorcast. My personal Twitter is at Kelsey Polnick. Bill, do you want to share your Twitter as well?
Yep, my Twitter is at Bill McGee. That's Bill with one L, MCGEE. And that's usually where I am if I'm on a computer. That's where you can find me.
Cool. And Chris, where are we uploading everything to these days for the audio versions?
Well, the good news is, as long as you go to any store that exists, just about, you'll find us. So we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google's very old thing and their new Google Podcast thing. We're on Stitcher. I've tried to put the feed about everywhere. You can go to collectorcast.com. So you should have no problem finding us.
Looking forward to talking to you guys again in just a couple short weeks.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Let's do it.
All right.